This is Hayes Q Jones, your DVD and Blu-ray baller on a budget, and this is HQ Videos for you. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Please like, share, subscribe. If you're a current subscriber, how you doing? You're greatly appreciated. Come on in, make yourself at home. This week for my collection videos is one of my favorite genres, science fiction. I'm doing what I believe are the top or some of the best science fiction movies from the 80s. Most of these movies either had a sequel to it or they're part of a franchise. A couple of these actually have some 3D versions in there, so really good stuff. So without further ado, sit back, relax, have a drink of a smoke, and I'll catch you on the other end of this video. We're back at the Black Cave. Back at the Black Cave. We are back at the motherfucking Black Cave. I wasn't going to do a top 5 or the best 5 science fiction movies out the 80s. I couldn't choose between 6 and 5, so I just did 6. My 6 top science fiction movie from the 80s is Scanners. And Scanners is a 1981 action horror science fiction thriller. This was written and directed by David Cronenberg, produced by Pierre David. And for all you who aren't that familiar with David Cronenberg, he's done things like To Die For, Map to the Stars, Crash, a lot of really kind of quirky movies. He did The Fly, Videodrome, Eastern Promises, Shivers, so has a real nice resume of movies. This movie stars Jennifer O'Neill, Stephen Lack, Patrick McGoohan, Lawrence Dane, and Michael Ironside. And this is the Criterion collection of the Scanners. Essentially, you have a group of people that have this mutant ability to, I don't call it telekinesis, the telepathic abilities to move things and to actually harm people. Early 80s movies, love the opening scene. Essentially, he can get into people's brains and make their heads explode. So this actually birthed Scanners 2, Scanners 3, Scanners Cop. So I think it was about 4 other Scanner movies. So really cool, kind of cult-like science fiction thriller. So if you like David Cronenberg, or if you're not familiar with David Cronenberg, you might want to get familiar with him. There's another movie by David Cronenberg I'm trying to get. Existence, EXISTENZ, I think Existence, something like that. But my number 6 pick for top science fiction movies of the 80s, Scanners. My number 5 pick, RoboCop. This is a 1987 action crime science fiction movie directed by Peter Verhoeven, produced by John Davison, and written by Edward Newmere. This stars Peter Weller, Nancy Allen, Danny O'Hurley, Ronnie Cox, and Kurtwood Smith. And this is a futuristic movie where Detroit is this mega violent city, and the city council
or the city government has given the authority to implement this prototype of defense. Thus, you have RoboCop. I love the first movie. The second and third, not so much though. But the one thing I remember mainly about RoboCop, or one of the catchphrases, "I'll buy that for $1." That was kind of the TV show they had always playing in the background. But this movie actually birthed two other movies, a remake and actually a television series. And this is just really cool action, science fiction. One of the first, I'll say, mid-sized production where you kind of have half man, half robot with the violence. So also like the remake. I think the remake had Samuel Jackson there. Samuel motherfucking Jackson in there also. So my number 5 pick for best movies of the 80s, RoboCop. My number 4 pick, science fiction thriller, 1982, Blade Runner. This was directed by Ridley Scott from Aliens and a variety of blockbuster movies. Produced by Charles de la Zurica. Written by Hampton Fancher. This stars Harrison Ford, Sean Young, the late Rutger Hauer, Edward James Olmos, if you ever watched Miami Vice, that was the captain from Miami Vice, and Emmett Walsh. And this is, oddly enough, Los Angeles in 2019, and this came out in the 80s, so it is a futuristic movie, kind of a dystopian, where you have Harrison Ford as this hunter for this very unique type of android that is so human-like that you can't distinguish him between humans and androids. And it just popped out. There you go. And I just like the whole look of the movie. It's kind of a mood movie. I mean, a mood movie. It's kind of dark and depressing, and you have shots of the city. It's kind of like slum-like, but it's futuristic because you have flying cars going around. You have these huge billboards, these electronic billboards, advertising stuff. So the look of the movie is real cool. Is that Daryl Hannah as one of the androids? Can't remember. I think that's Daryl Hannah that played one of the androids. But just a very cool look, futuristic movie. And if you look at androids nowadays, you might not be too far from that type of technology. And this is actually good enough to actually birth a sequel, Blade Runner 2, or Blade Runner 2045, which is interesting. If this came out in 2019 as Blade 2045, Harrison Ford should be a lot older though, but I won't get into that. I like this one specifically because they have a 3D version of it. You know, I love my 3D movies, so didn't like the first one as much as the second one. I have to watch it again, so maybe I have different feelings. I do have a habit of comparing movies to each other and watching them again and somewhat changing my feel on it though. But my number 4 pick, Blade Runner, the final cut, and just want to show you the sequel with the 3D. My number 3 pick for best science fiction pictures of the 80s, E.T. This was directed by the famous, the great Steven Spielberg, produced by Kathleen Kennedy, written by Melissa Matheson. This stars Henry Thomas, D. Wallace Stone, Peter Coyote, Robert McNaughton, and a very young Drew Barrymore. And essentially you have E.T., the terrestrial, left behind from his fellow aliens, and Elliot is tasked with trying to get him home. And this is just classic sci-fi family movies. Actually, when the family and I went to Universal a while ago, they were telling us about E.T. actually had an alternate ending where E.T. didn't go home, and one of the rides was actually based on E.T. not going home. But this is, I actually picked this up at a pawn shop somewhere. I have the motion picture soundtrack, which I've never heard before. Blu-ray 4K, and you have a nice little booklet. And this has to be, as far as popular movies from the 80s, right up there with Goonies. If you're a child of the 80s, you're Gen X, you probably seen E.T. at least once. And this is just a fun, family-oriented sci-fi movie. Unlike Close Encounters, which is more like kind of the X-Files, ufology type of movie, this is more family alien fun. So my number 3 pick, best movies of the 80s, E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. My number 2 pick is 1987's Predator. It's an action, adventure, science fiction thriller. This is directed by John McTiernan, produced by John Davis, written by Jim Thomas. This stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, the late great Carl Weathers, we all miss you, dude, Elpida Carrillo, Bill Duke, iconic black actor and director, and Jesse the Body Ventura. I think he was governor of Minnesota at one time. You have an elite team of soldiers on a secret mission in Central America, in the jungles of Central America, and they find themselves, instead of attacking people or extracting people, they're being hunted by the Predator. And actually have the Predator and the Predator in 3D. I think it wasn't shot in 3D, they redid it in a 3D version. This also birthed Predators 2, Predators, so at least 2 or 3, well, at least 3 or 4 other sequels. I think the last movie they have, Prey, they did a kind of a group effort with the Aliens by Predator Aliens, a collaboration with the Aliens franchise. Hopefully they'll do more Predator Alien movies in the future, since it seems like remakes and sequels are the things of the future, with Rambo 7, Lethal Weapon 21, Bad Boys 29, Beverly Hills Cop 30. So that seems to be the wave. Predator 2 wasn't as good as Predator 1, but I like in the series. I like it because in Prey, they've actually kind of signaled back to this movie by some of the things they've shown, some artifacts that were in the second movie. So fantastic franchise. Predator is one of the iconic movies of the 80s. When you think of action movies or science fiction, you got to think of Predator. Number 2, Predator and the Predator series. And my number 1 pick for top sci-fi movies of the 80s, yes, Arnold made the list again, The Terminator. Action science fiction thriller, came out in 1984, directed and written by James Cameron, produced by John Daly, starring the man, the myth, the legend himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Michael Biehn, Linda Hamilton, the late Paul Winfield, and Lance Henriksen. And essentially have this post-apocalyptic future which creates these Terminators, these androids that are tasked with killing other humans. And essentially, I know if there are a few people in the world who haven't seen Terminator, I don't want to give too much away though, but essentially John Connor sends a Terminator back to protect his mother from the past. And great storyline. It's actually based on a story written by I believe a black writer, or a female writer though. But this has birthed 2, 3, 4, I don't know how, like 5 different Terminators. Don't know if they're coming out with another one. I had to show this one off. I love showing this one off. This is my Terminator 2 glow-in-the-dark 3D movie though. But very cool concept. A robot that you can't stop, going back in the future, protecting your past self, as in a sense, your past relatives, to make sure that you have a future. So fantastic movie. Just wondering how many more Terminators they're going to do before they let it go. But this is my top movies from the 80s and some of their sequels. If you made it this far in the video, thank you. Go ahead, smash the like. Give me the big thumbs up. Helps the algorithm. So ring the bell. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe. Other than that, may the best of your past be the worst of your future. Everyone be safe. Deuces.